computer. Hello, everybody. This is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting. Today is the 20th of April, 2021. Please add your names to the list of participants and your agenda topics in the Google Doc I'm going to share in chat. Okay, let's see what we have for today. I don't see any new meeting participants. So this is, I wanted to highlight this cap for changing the release cadence of Kubernetes. It has been there for a while. It received above 200 comments at this point. A lot of people commented. Like everybody's here pretty much. The TLDRs, I extracted it in a message here. With 121, the release cadence is moving to 4 months release cycle or 3 releases per year. And it's with a caveat that SIG release during this process will conduct some surveys to try to get feedback from the consumers of Kubernetes to figure out that if people are happy with the new cadence. Prior discussions in this particular SIG, especially with Tim, we showed a preference that we want this change. As somebody who helps with the maintenance of kubeadm, I would say that 3 months is kind of difficult for us, even if it's a relatively small project. We just cannot get a lot of things into a release. And the KEP process is getting more and more complicated, especially around production readiness review. A lot of people depend on getting the KEP merge first and then actually working on some of the PRs that they have. And then they are blocked on the reviewers and so on. It's kind of 3 months. I think the shorter the cycle, the more difficult to get the process rolling. So yeah, I think we are generally +1. Does anybody have comments on this topic?
Did we? What happened with regards to LTS? Is LTS longer or is LTS the same time? Just fewer releases now.
Yeah, I think so some context here. There used to be a working group LTS that was hosted on the SIG release. Basically, the result of this working group before it was closed was that instead of creating an LTS release of Kubernetes, we just decided to extend the support window. So nowadays we support a Kubernetes release for 1 year instead of 9 months. That is the result of the LTS group, and it is mentioned in this particular cap as well. But it remains the same. Basically, it's 1 year support window. It's just the release cadence changes. So yeah, if you don't have any comments now, you can just add them to the cap to contribute to the 200+ comments on there. Yeah. Unless there are comments for this, we can move to the next topic. Tim, do you want to say something?
Yay! One battle down, 99 to go.
Yeah, one step at a time. Now, if you also fix the release process of Kubernetes, it's going to be great. Yeah, they're working on that.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of movement on that front, actually. So I think there is hope there as well.
There's a new tool called Creo. They're getting this tool to eventually replace Anago, but it's still, if we move to a distributed model where every component lives in a separate repository, like tomorrow, we cannot release Kubernetes because the tooling for release does not support that. There's no way to pull artifacts from multiple places currently. Everything is built from KK. And the way Anago is written is like concurrent bash. Nobody understands how it works. So yeah, they're writing a tool in Go, and hopefully we can start using that for the release eventually. All right, Bika, you have a topic?
Yeah, just a quick question for this group, mostly just around process. We, in getting and prototyping
Hello?
that could be split out, a few more phases.
Sorry, you froze for a moment. I didn't
Oh,
catch.
did I?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so in prototyping Cluster API for Bottle Rocket, our container OS, we found that there's a few things that would be really nice to break out in terms of the join command for control plane and for kubelet. Specifically, just adding a few more into like specific phases instead of bundling quite as much into every phase. There, Kubedium breaks it down into a bunch of different phases, like for control plane. But for kubelet, it's kind of all wrapped into one. Because our Bottle Rocket OS uses slightly different, we have slightly different file paths and we do things a little bit differently in terms of just how we operate the OS. It'd be really nice to break those phases out into a few more sort of sub phases. Is that something that we would, need to open a KEP for? Or would that be just like a small enough change we could open a PR for? Would that be just even if we did a KEP, would that just be a lighter weight? Just, hey, we want to keep all the existing functionality, just break it down and do a few more phases so that we can start one, start another, but pause it in the middle instead of having like we have some hacky sleeps in some scripts right now waiting for stuff to reconcile.
So the PRs are simple, but the problem is that we have to be backwards comparable.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if we take the kubelet start phase,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we break it into a number of subphases, I think there was a problem in Cobra where users now have to call kubelet start space O, which is like we add a subcommand which is called O, so that we can execute all the subcommands of the kubelet start command. So that I think there was a problem with that. If we cannot preserve backwards comparability if we break this down into subphases today, we have to introduce this O subcommand. I'm not sure whether we basically overlook something. Maybe it's possible, but we had 3 people looking at it when we were designing the phases. It was not possible. So for example, if you do control plane prepare today, you have to pass all here. And that's the only way to execute all the subphases of another way is to, which is not ideal, again, is to add a new phase after kubelet start. That is, I don't know, breaking something that you want. What do you want exactly to be separate?
I don't have my notes right in front of me for like what specific phases we want. I can follow up on that, but I think it was, where's it? I don't have it handy, but I can find out and get you I can get the details. But I know there was like a few steps that just required like some sleeps before, like I think we had to like write static pods, then sleep, and then run bootstrap token. So it was in how we passed bootstrap tokens, I think. So it was for like the control plane, it was creates the static pods because we create them slightly differently. And then we had to just wait for the kubelet to bring those up. Then we had to do some other things. What else was it? Oh, we had to put the kubelet in standalone mode and then set it to not standalone mode.
Oh,
I think that's what it was.
but that's kind of hacky. Why are you doing that?
With our Bottle Rocket OS, we remap some of the file locations. Like Etsy isn't writable in the OS. And so we had to, I think, like there was some changing of paths, and then there was like I have to double check.
Maybe you should log an issue a Kubernetes / kube.
I'll log an issue.
Yeah. I think so. Is this about securing the path permissions by any chance?
No, it's not really securing. It's just that the OS doesn't support writing to certain paths, and so we like remap like Etsy to like a writable path. We have like a container that we're running QAtom inside. So it's I can detail it in an issue.
Yeah, because kubedev has patches, so you can potentially patch the volume inside the default kubedev static pod to point to a custom path for etcd, which means that you can avoid breaking down the kubelet phase as well and running in standalone mode.
Yeah, it wasn't exclusive to paths. I'll double check and I can detail it in an issue. That was the paths was one of the things, but the others was like giving the kubelet time to join the cluster. Yeah.
Okay, I can try following up on that to provide some help potentially. Basically, we consider the phases GA, and that's like a unfortunate artifact of exposing implementation details to users. Is that once you expose them, it's very difficult to make changes. For instance, given the whole quote unquote all subcommand problem, if we decide to add a separate subphase here under control plane, it's going to be fine. But if we decide to break this down, it's a breaking change, and I see that users are not very happy when we touch phases.
So just running kubelet start without -- all doesn't you can't make it run all of the sub phases.
Yeah, I think that was the problem, and if we can manage to maybe find a magical solution that works, but like I said, we had 3 people looking at it, so. I mean, if once you log the issue, maybe there's a workaround. If there's no workaround, we can investigate this Cobra problem again and see if we can do something.
Right.
I'm sure it's not. Am I in a weird?
Yeah,
okay,
your audio is synced. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Hopefully it's okay now. I'm sure it's not sufficient to just do the paths, but when it comes to remapping paths, I think personally had a change of heart here. I think it's better to try to make the paths writable in their sort of canonical locations. For example, using bind mounts. And the reason is daemon sets that do things like opt CNI bin is the canonical example, or etc CNI, where these daemon sets have these expectations that these paths are writable and in these sort of standard locations. And so I wish I had done more of that in my various interactions with Kubernetes rather than like tweaking the pods, tweaking all the tooling to like find a writable location, just setting up, those writable locations.
Cool.
Just typing something here quickly. Yeah, we see occasionally kubeadm requests for people to change some of the default paths. We tell them to use symbolic links or byte mounts, trying to get the default setup compatible with Kubernetes. Uh, I I worry about the phase breakdown that people are doing because it makes it very difficult for us to make changes to the phases, and the whole problem in Kubernetes is that you have a breaking change every minor release. It's not great. So yeah, it's a difficult problem. Okay, any other group topics? Moving to sub-project updates, I added one for kubeadm. In 122, we are adding V1 Beta 3, which is a new API for kubeadm. It's still work in progress. Below here, you can find the KEP that contains a list of changes that we're going to do. I can show them quickly. I mean, this is still planning. We may not have time to complete everything, which means that we have to update the cap to finalize it before 122. But here we have a small list of things that we want to do. The first one is to make the kubeadm API more CRD friendly, which means that we have to add the plus optional tag in a number of places where we have a mid empty. Maybe we're going to add object meta to some of the structures that we have. This is mostly for customized. We're still debating whether we want to do that. A number of projects that used to use customized with kubeadm now use something else, or maybe they don't use kubeadm even at this point. So we may have to ask a question on some of the mailing lists to see if people are still doing it, because object meta was really a problem in customized modifications to some of these structures. But yeah, this is a bit of a to-do. I was keeping phases with config. Currently, it's possible with a flag, but it's not possible with the config. A lot of requests for this one. This is like the P0 pretty much for us at this point. From cluster API, from individual users of kubeadm. This is something we are definitely going to do. Deprecation and structures, cluster status is being removed. I mean, the DNS type is only going to support core DNS at this point. Hypercube is being removed. And other changes, if we have more time, there's a list in this particular issue that I linked. There's a list here if you can look at all the changes that we have planned, but those are war priority. And by introducing V1 Beta 3, we're also removing the old API, which is V1 Beta 1. It's a V1 Beta 2 is not deprecated, but it will be deprecated in a future release, maybe 123 or later. Does anybody have questions for kubeadm? Okay, I don't see any other sub-project updates. Does anybody have any additional topics for today, or we can end up 40 minutes early?
Real quick question, and then we can end early, or maybe just a statement. I don't know when the return to normalcy will ever occur, if it will occur this year, or maybe it'll be next year. I don't know. But I think doing some preparatory work to plan for that would probably be a good thing, because I imagine that it's going to be roaring 20s all over again. So what I think maybe starting the conversation now for when we have a return to normalcy and a actual KubeCon might be a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, if KubeCon opens for, again, in-person visits, in-person participation, we should definitely have a talk to get some, presentations and talks present there, and to see how we can meet in person and things like that. I'm sure a lot of people missed that already. For this particular KubeCon, which is again virtual, I'm going to skip it completely because unfortunately it lands on the Orthodox Easter in my country, so yeah, and I'm going to have to skip it. But I will watch a number of videos after that. I don't know. We have a cluster API presentation. Does anybody else know what other talks we have for this one? I kind of forgot.
For the pure virtual one, to be honest, I kind of tuned out. I did the virtual one back in November, and underwhelmed is probably an understatement. So I had I had more interest of just going on Slack channels and watching YouTube videos than I did of the engagement, so to speak, you want to call it that, in a pure virtual conference. So I'm in the shrug mode around the pure virtual KubeCon or just virtual conferences in general.
Yeah, there was this interesting, like a video game where you can join with an avatar, you can voice chat to people. I think that was a highlight for me at one of these virtual KubeCons.
See,
But
the highlight for me, which was actually kind of fun, was we did it. There was like this virtual trivia night, and I think actually that was the most fun I had in a virtual conference. Is just doing the virtual trivia where there was an orchestrator, and they split off the teams and they came back together and they were able to like do a full trivia over Zoom, and it was actually engaging and a lot of fun. My kids loved it.
what was the topic of the trivia?
Marvel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will fail this trivia miserably. Not that I'm going to succeed on DC trivia, but I just don't know comics that much. But yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe Star Wars as well. I think this is a popular trivia as well. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun for a virtual event, definitely. But yeah, let's hope that we can actually meet in person eventually. That would be fun as well. All right, any other topics? Cool. We have 30 minutes back almost. Thank you, everybody. See you again in a couple of weeks. Bye.